So the next question, Rachel, if it's okay, I'd like to we'll just kind of go in order here. I'll pass this one to you. So as you guys look at your partner programs and putting these requirements in place, how do you go about that? How do you manage the different requirements and these different variations?
So that's a good question. Having had worked at a couple different companies, we kind of learned our lessons about what works and what doesn't, what was easy to manage, what wasn't easy to manage. And it's a real back to the balance, right? What's important to the partner to distinguish themselves in the market, and what are those requirements that the company needs, to make sure that we're designing compensation plans and everything else to match them. So it really is a balance. The advice that I gave to my team when we were working through this was keep it simple, right? If a partner needs a spreadsheet to figure out how they make money with you, that's the wrong leveling program, right? It should be on a slide. There should be a few things, 3, 4, 5. And for us, because our business is fairly complex, our product is complex, we've got a lot more requirements when it comes to training and shadowing and service providers and things like that. So we have a broad general program like Lana was talking about. It's important to have this global program, but then we've got tracks within it. Whereas in the old days, we used to have separate programs. We'd have an MSP program or a service provider program, whereas now it's all under one umbrella, but the tracks are different under each one. So the tracks are unique to the go-to-market or the type of partner that it is. So while there are some commonalities like revenue, number of deal registrations, things like that are pretty common across the different levels, there are things that are unique to a service partner that are different from a technology partner. So we want to make sure that we're recognizing those competencies. So our program is really based on competencies of the partner, requirements of the company, and then adding in also, the go-to-market that they have. I think one thing that we talked about, going back to the partner types as well, and the way the requirements are, is that partner types are different now. Like one partner, what we used to traditionally call an OEM, OEMs, resells, co-sells, and refers. So they've got this one partner type has multiple go-to-markets. And how do you address that in your leveling program? That's something that we, quite honestly, arm wrestled over, and we had quite a few discussions around, like, how do you define a partner type these days when a traditional partner has multiple go-to-markets, and how do you reward that? So that's something that we've used this tool for, is to be able to create those requirements.
That's great. You touched on that. It's the multiple partner types. I'm just going to repeat it because that's so important. You have the OEMs, you have the co-sellers, the resellers, the referral partners. I mean, each one has their own need. And then you touched on something else as well, the competencies. We're seeing this become, at least it seems to me, I see this become more and more relevant. It's like people are specializing, so what is their competency? How do you guys effectively organize around that? And maybe if Lana, if you want to jump in as well on that, or Kenneth, like what are you guys seeing and how do you drive that?
Rachel, do you want to kick off?
Sure, yeah, I'll just answer. So one of the first things that we did is, competencies are most important to the customer, right? Our mutual end customer. They care what competencies the partner has, as do we, because that helps us understand gaps that we might have in the market or in a certain geo. If we don't have a partner that has a certain skill set, we need to go recruit and find that partner. So understanding the partner's competencies are good for everybody. Managing and tracking that is a whole other thing. So the easiest way to do it is around product competencies and capabilities, services, and we can measure that with training, certification, credentials that they have. That's probably the easiest way to do it. We also have a competency around vertical industries, and this really comes from social proof. Have you submitted case studies where you've done work in the financial services industry or manufacturing? Do you have a point solution that is purpose built for a particular industry? So there's a couple of different ways that partners can demonstrate that competency, but there's still only one competency, and it's in a given industry or vertical that they happen to be focused on. That's one example.
Yeah, well said. We obviously use training certifications from a competency perspective, and just through my experience as a global program leader and just throughout the reality is you don't have to develop all competencies in-house. You can, as Rachel noted, look at and look to other competencies out in the marketplace, specifically, whether it's a case study or other, even industry associations that you may be a part of or your partners may be a part of, are really critical to recognizing that value. Certainly from a vertical perspective, honoring and recognizing what a partner has done out in the marketplace, not necessarily what they do with your specific product or solution, but the value that they bring out to customers in the financial sector, in hospitality. Critical to recognize that in the program. It just makes it much more simple for the partner, and certainly gives the partners a lot of flexibility across the overall market. For us, another thing that I just want to note about requirements is requirements are absolutely a critical part of the program. And as we consider different levelings, we're talking about levels, which by default means there's a progression. One of the things that we've also introduced in our program is just a baseline requirement. In order to even engage and be a medaled level or higher tier, you have to do X. And it's not necessarily you do X at this level, and that level, not a progression, but just a minimum. We expect you to have this specific attribute or behavior with us as a business because we believe it's so critical. It's so aligned with our strategy. So to the comment that Rachel said, you don't want an Excel spreadsheet. And at the same time, you can keep it simple by having some things that are just a yes, no, check, pass, go, and then measures to progress through the program from a requirements perspective.
Yeah, I might add to that, Judy, just in terms of requirements. So obviously competency is always the big one for people. And again, having a good way to conduit that out to the partners so they can easily understand what the requirements are and where they're at and how to deal with somebody leaving and all of those good things. But I suppose, as we migrate to SaaS and the world of MRR, there are other requirements we see, becoming, very important in leveling programs. So things like, your renewal rate, your adoption rate right out to the end customer, and trying to get all of that tracked can be challenging, but it's really important because if you're not selling on premise, or indeed in most cases, you're migrating from what we would say on premise to cloud, you want to incentivize the cloud more because that's the direction your business wants to go in. So the channel program has to adopt to align with that business goal or strategy, if you like. So, maybe in some cases it's giving more points towards cloud products versus on-premise, or more whatever it is, more dollar value to that, etc. Which in turn kind of brings into the whole renewal. So we're starting to see a lot of companies now are putting some level of adoption rate and renewal rate into their leveling programs and putting a lot of value on those as well. And I think that's really important that people start to think like that, because otherwise the MRR model, while it sounds great and valuations are higher, it's also easier for customers to walk away from it. Okay, so you need to keep partners motivated to drive those adoption rates, and right through to, you see companies putting a lot of work into CSMs to do that, to support the partners. So we're back to our ecosystem is definitely changing, and I think in 3 years' time we'll be in a very different place than we are now.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. We are definitely on a journey, and I think the first step is getting these things in place. Things that we're looking at for next fiscal year would be adding, how do you measure driving consumption, right? So expansion of a deal is one thing, renewal is one thing, but if you can renew plus X%, I mean, we comp our own internal people that way. Why wouldn't we pay our partners to do that as well? So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at for the next gen of this. Maybe some of you are already doing this and we're behind the curve, but also, for the consumption meters, like we're a cloud-based product, we're a platform, so consumption is key, retention is key, so we reward and provide very high point levels to that stickiness of the business.
Yeah, so well said.
Yeah, so,
gone are the days where it's just revenue and training. It really is a holistic measure of partners. And Kenneth, one of the things that you said that is just, I'm probably jumping ahead and we'll get to it in detail later, that's just so critical, is having the ability. Requirements are one thing, and it's relatively, as an organization, it might seem easy to set that requirement, but the real value is having your partners see how they're performing and understand the baseline and what is the expectation and how am I achieving my results month over month, quarter over quarter. And it's just so critical. And certainly that's where we are from an evolution perspective, is ensuring that we have that visibility to our partners. Strategically, it's very clear where we want Rachel, as you said, that consumption model where we want to go and drive, but ensuring that we give that transparency to our partners to hold them not only accountable, but drive rewards appropriately. It's critical.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, JD, maybe last point on it, sorry to interrupt. Last point on it, I would say is because a lot of people won't have the luxury of, oh, we are straight on to MRR, right? They're, a cloud company. So everybody has to, and the vast majority are dealing with the transition phase right now, because you can't let the old revenue fall off a cliff. So you got to support your program to manage the old world, because that's probably in most cases still the most of your revenue, and incentivize the new world till you get there, basically. And that'll take a number of years. We all know that takes many years to fully get there. And then we're back to our partner types that Lana mentioned at the start. Some of these guys just don't want to go on that journey. So how do you keep them motivated while you get the transition done, and they maybe fall off the program at some stage? They won't even meet those minimum requirements. So this is why they, we call it an ecosystem now. It's no longer just the channel. It's definitely an ecosystem.
Right, there's the ecosystem with multiple channels and different partner types within each channel, and each partner may be in multiple channels. As you said, the OEM, the co-sell, the resell, et cetera. The other thing, before we move on, and we won't spend any time on it, but I just want to point it out because I think it's so important. Both Rachel, you and Lana commented about this. When you're building out your program requirements, it's not just about what are my business requirements, it's what are my customers' requirements, what's important to my customer, which makes me successful for them, that I need my partners to execute on. So some of the satisfaction rates, or what are your competencies, so that we are able to track and give the customer the right partner to work with. Because we talk about partners, we're all channel, but ultimately it's what's the value to our customer that returns value back to the business that makes the whole thing go round. So I think that's just, you both touched on that, and then we talked around it a lot. I just wanted to call that out. Really great. So we have the next poll question, and then we'll come to a commentary section with a question for you, Kenneth. So Brenda, please.
Okay, thanks, JD. So the next section is going to be on requirements. So we're going to pop a poll in here for that. So for those of you offering a partner level program, how many requirements are included in the program? Would that be less than 3 to 4, more than 4, and of course if you don't offer a partner leveling program? And I see a couple of questions coming in, so thanks to everyone who's posted one so far, and of course if anyone else has a question, just pop it in and we'll get to it in a little while. Okay, we still have some answers coming in, so we'll just give that another couple of seconds.
Brenda, while they're filling the answers in, I just want to point out the slide there. It says that organizers and panelists don't vote. I feel a little left out. I just wanted to share that for posterity.
Thank you for sharing, JD. Okay, and with that, I'm going to pop it back over to you there now.